Today I'm going to talk about change behaviour using motion gameplay. So a little bit of background about myself. Basically, I had to get from a broken chair back in 2009 to motion gaming. I work from home, and I don't know if the one day I ate too many pies, and I let back off my office chair, and basically it broke. So searched around, rummaged under the stairs, all I could find was a gym ball. So got to the office with my gym ball. Anyway, working from home had some benefits. So one of those was having a little bit of me time at the end of the day. My little bit of me time was playing on my Xbox. And at the time I was into Halo, which I don't know, it's a shoot 'em up game. Anyway, I was sitting on my gym ball at the end of the day, started playing this game. Probably in about 5 minutes, I started working up a bit of a sweat. I found that I was starting to get a bit more engaged in the game as well. And a flash of inspiration was, hold on a minute, with all these problems about kids with obesity and gaming, getting bad, press, there's got to be something here. Maybe I can, even if we could just take the XY axes, i.e. the motion backwards and forwards, left and right, out of the game, put it into the gym ball, away we go. It's got to be simpler. What could be simpler? So anyway, that was back in 2009. I probably got my first proper prototype about sort of 2 years ago. And on the back of that, what I've done is basically created a product called MOVOBall. Now, MOVOBall is basically, sorry about these buttons. Basically what MOVOBall is, it's a smart device, it's a cradle, which takes your electronics of your accelerometers and gyroscopes, similar that you find in a phone, so you can use mobile applications, and basically you capture motion control. So you can literally sit on the ball, sit on the cradle, and you can move, and that basically creates output. The accelerometers can be contained in the phone, so again it's a low point of entry. All you need is a mobile phone. We've got it working with both Android and Apple. The demos I've got outside are actually with the Apple phone. But what we do is we take that information and we basically can export that. We've also now got a gyroscope dongle, which again we can insert into the base unit, and again we can play it through the phone. So again, for those of you who love your iPhones, you haven't got to sit on the ball on your phone in the cradle, which has been an advancement. Interestingly enough, looking at the data output that we can now get from the dongle, we can get very fine access to information, very fine tolerances. So again, it's so very sensitive. This allows us then to control the output, the XY axes, to a very fine degree, which is brilliant for creating games, brilliant for creating applications. We've already got some applications that have been written for us. These are fitness-based, but again, what we're trying to do is prove that the actual device works. You can play games, you can use game theory, game design to actually deliver an experience to the user. What that also allows us to do, in terms of this finite output, this XY axis output, is we can start looking at users and we can start assessing them. We can start creating heat maps. So again, my use of a gym ball sitting on the cradle might be different to somebody else who may have lower back problems, for example. So what we can do is we can work with the healthcare providers to look at these heat maps to see where somebody's problem is. It may not be that it's moving forwards and backwards, it may be that it's moving at certain angles, and then you can start making and get an accurate assessment. Rather than using your expertise and your knowledge to actually deliver that, we can actually get factual data to make those decisions. So it's all about evidence-based decision making. But it's not just about having a great device, it's not just about having a great application, it's not just about being able to affect or link to all of your smart devices like tablets, phones, smart TVs are coming along, all of these sort of areas. What we're trying to do here is actually deliver a change in the way people operate. And to do that, what we're able to do is put this into the cloud. So again, we can use applications that developers can work with health practitioners. They can work with those applications, they can put them into the cloud, and then users and other health practitioners can download them. As was suggested earlier, it's global now. What we're trying to do is deliver a global community. And cloud computing in particular will allow us to do that. And then once we've got all of those applications and people are using them, we're not talking about 50, 100, we want to scale up to thousands and thousands of people. We can capture a big ball of data. So the data and you probably all have heard about big data, we can actually look at changing applications. So we can look at individualised healthcare programs using healthcare applications. We can apply those to numerous people, and then we can collect all that data back. So what we're then able to do is say, right, for different people, different types, different socio-economic groups, different body types with different weights, we can actually start applying gameplay or game methodology or game behaviour into those applications. So we're developing an ongoing, rolling, based way of designing applications. So again, it's a virtuous circle. Things will keep getting better, the things that don't work we take out, the good things that do work we put back in, and that's what we will develop. So in terms of the Swiss ball, why have we chosen a Swiss ball? It was lucky I was sitting on a Swiss ball back in 2009. But if you look at it, Swiss balls are universal within the healthcare sector. They're proven, they're now pressure tested, something like £500. They're double skinned as well, so the safety aspects are there. So again, it's not like we're trying to recreate the wheel. They're very cheap as well, so again, we can roll these out, people can take them home with them. So there's all these sort of things that sort of have melded together to design MOVOball in the way it has. So there's also a number of clinical treatments that already use Swiss balls, so for postnatal treatments and exercises, things like apraxia, orthopedic rehabilitation. There's lots of exercises and things that people are already doing that are already proven. However, what we can do is you can digitise that and we can put valuable data behind the actual exercises. So what I'm going to focus on is a problem I've done some research on and investigation. That's basically lower back pain. There's over 40 million hours lost every year through lower back pain. It costs the NHS about £1.1 billion, about £500 million is in private health as well. So not only have we got this massive big cost that is going out in terms of who we're paying, what we're paying to the NHS, in terms of the taxes that we pay going to help people with bad backs, you've got 40 million hours that have been taken, productive hours that have been taken out of the economy. So there's a double whammy there that we need to focus on. So again, I've identified a problem, we've got some stats there. If we can make a small impact on this, obviously that can have significant cost benefit to the NHS. So we've picked on 2 exercises which are proven, they're used by physios. Sorry, I can't say proven. They raise positive outcome within the sort of physio treatments. One's the pelvic tilt, which is basically a backwards and forwards motion, and the other one is a spine extension, which is a bit like Supergirl or Superwoman. So what we can start doing is looking at, in terms of game design, and looking at ways we can actually take that physical motion that they have and put that into a design of a program. We can start looking at some basic routines. So again, we've got the left, right, up, down motion, we've got a clock face, we've also got a figure of 8. So again, if we look at designing a game, as well as the physical attributes, as I've just described there, what we need to do is actually engage with the user. Now that's where the game, on a one-to-one basis, is key. It's basically called cognitive flow. That's the engagement that you get through the game with the user using the game. So what you're trying to do there is you're getting them to focus onto the game, so they're focused on the game, not necessarily on the treatment. So we need to look at that as part of the gameplay or as part of the game in the exercise regime. Another thing is, and I don't know how many people know this, but I only found this out a couple of weeks ago, hyperbolic discounting. I don't know if anybody's heard of that, but basically in game theory and game design, hyperbolic discounting is humans like rewards here and now. They like small rewards now. If I can get a small reward now, I'd rather have a small reward now than a big one later on. Now that's great if you're just playing a game. If I need you to do the exercises for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to improve your lower back pain or to improve your outcome, I'm going to have you doing these exercises. But you might not want to do that because what you're interested in is, well, I want a reward here and now. So in terms of the game design, what we look to do is actually include small rewards as we go along. So again, in terms of actually delivering the game design, what we're looking at doing is creating that behaviour which rewards you as you achieve certain things. So for example, if the exercise is you need to do 1,000 repetitions, I want to reward you at 250. I want you to be able to feel good about what you've done. So again, we can start building that into the game design. So what I've come up with here is I've called it the jug of motion game. Excuse the, it's basically paint that I've had to use in terms of the graphics. But the idea behind this is we're going to follow the game extension. We're going to assess somebody so we know, and the exercise that they're doing, how they've progressed, or no, sorry, not where they've progressed, where the start point is. And let's say the start point is at 40%. Then we can use that to assess them in terms of where do they fall on the curves. Where are they in relation to where we need them to be? So we make sure that we're starting them off at the right level. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get the user to engage with the exercise, to concentrate on filling the bowls. So the target is that they need to fill 4 bowls using water within a certain level of time. So again, what we can start doing is building that up so they're getting into the exercise. And then we can review that as well. We can capture all that data on the back end to say, right, are they doing the exercises every day? Are they getting where they need to be? So again, in terms of health practitioners, it puts the power back into health practitioners because you're knowing that these users are actually using the games. They're not coming to you for a half-an-hour session one week, coming back half-an-hour session the week after. What's happened in between? What's the evidence? You know, how can you base the judgment? Oh, my back's still bad, or I've still got problems. Is that because they're not doing the exercises? It's not because they've got a condition that we haven't found. So again, we can start building up that sort of picture. What we also want to do then is looking at, going back to your cognitive flow, is looking at level up and feedback. You need to give the feedback to the user. So again, what we're trying to do here is, once they've completed their exercise on level 1, they're now ready to move up to level 2. So the idea here is, instead of having water in the bowl, basically now we've got treacle. So why we've got treacle? Well, it's high viscosity. Literally, they're going to have to work harder to get the same amount of liquid into the bowls. So over time, it's going to take them longer. So again, we know from the exercises that they're doing, then they're reaching another level. So again, the next level will then be based on an increased difficulty. It may be something like tar, you know, whatever, small rocks, whatever we might want it to be. So again, what we're trying to do there is build up this level, this appreciation, making it harder for them so they remain engaged, keep the cognitive flow up. And then finally, we want to look at focus, rewards and motivation. Going back to the hyperbolic discounting, what we need to be doing is to get them engaged. What we need to be doing is rewarding them as they're going along. What we also might want to be doing is looking at their progress over time. So again, we want to make sure that they're reaching these exercises. It may be that we don't set certain levels, we just make sure that they do a certain amount of repetitions and they actually go through you know, a full cycle of the treatment. However, rewards, again, personal rewards to them. Maybe they get a gold star, brilliant. What they might want to do though is they might want to go out to their friends through Facebook, through social media, through Twitter, saying, look at me, I've now completed exercise 1 or stage 1, stage 2. Now, that again, that is a great motivation for people. It's not just about self-motivation, but it's actually getting their friends and family. You know, they can start getting involved in their treatment program. So what we can also do in terms of on the back end of this, as I mentioned before, is we can actually look at the output. So we can actually look at the desired motion that we want to create. So again, with enough people over enough time, we can start using analysis, we can start using reporting, we can start designing games better. So we can actually track somebody's movement, for example, on the cradle, so that then we can take that output, where do they stand, you know, what sort of treatment will they need to improve that, what sort of behaviour can we create to improve that. We can also look at data capture. So again, as I mentioned, we can take all of this data, we can capture it on the phone, for example, we can then put that up into the cloud, we can then report that against that, we can then share that with people, we can make comparisons, all these sort of things. We can give that to other healthcare providers, we can start working with people in Australia, in America, we can start formulating all of that and seeing what comes out. So again, once you've got the data, it's then you turn that data into information. So in terms of the games that we can play, the amazing thing for me was when I actually built the first prototype, I literally took my phone, thought, hold on a minute, there's an accelerator game here. What happens if I put that in the cradle straight as it is, with a certain game on it? I think it's Wooden Labyrinth. And even if I can get it just a little bit working. It just means that I can recreate that and I can do some more design work, and obviously you can create something better. I literally put my phone in the cradle, sat on the ball, and I played that game and actually got through the first phase. I even could tap the ball and the ball would jump. All these sort of things straight away came into play. You can play that game down to a finite level. I can make that ball move literally by very, very slight, probably even better. I hope I haven't done any tests against things like kinetic. It literally is, you are tensing muscles and you're making movement. So again, things like even lasers won't pick that up, I don't believe. So again, what we can do with this very, very sensitive equipment, take it from gameplay, we can then take that into, like I say, application design, healthcare application design. That's the goal. So we've got a game out there that you can play. It's basically, there's 3 or 4 of these games. The range of motion is, you literally sit on the ball, the red lights flash, and then you move to those red lights. We can change the sensitivity on it, so we can make it more difficult, we can make it harder. So again, if you wanted to try this, I've actually got it linked up to my heart rate monitor as well. So again, we can start looking at ways of increasing heart rate through gameplay. So again, we can start linking it to your Fitbits and seeing what we can do there. So again, everything's starting to come together. There's a really strong pressure on convergence at the moment. And convergence is bringing together all your disparate parts of technology, applications, smart devices, big data, utility computing. So again, you don't have to go out and invest in these massive big computers. You can start very small. If you're successful, you can just grow. A bit like turning on, requiring more electricity. That's how it's all sort of working. One thing to also mention, that's another one of the games we've got, which is a fitness test. Literally, I don't know if anybody's done the beep test. You literally have to travel from one point to another within the beeps, and the beeps get faster and faster and faster, so you're literally moving. Again, that's a good fitness test. Done it in rugby on a car park and it killed me, but this is a little bit easier. So in terms of the different types of games, these are very simple. These are games that I've come up with, but again, what we're trying to do is work with health practitioners and get engaged to design better games. Going back to the other thing, there are motion games, for example, like Pac-Man, already on your phones that you can download, and we can play almost straight away. There's a little bit of difficulty, obviously, with the controls in terms of switching on and off, but in terms of looping and going through there. But again, going back to changing the behaviour or designing behaviour for games, what we're able to do is we can map your actions playing Pac-Man, and we can go back to looking at a pattern match of the actions that you will get from playing this game. So wouldn't that be great? You need this pattern match because you've got a bad back or low back pain, you're of a certain weight, certain height or certain age. We can say, right, go off and play Pac-Man for a week, an hour a day. That's the sort of thing that we'll be able to do, because once we've got that data, we can make comparisons. So wouldn't that be great? We don't need pills, all we need is Pac-Man. So, in summary, we want to create games that mimic current treatment requirement or treatment programs. So if there are healthcare providers out there who are using similar gym balls or gym ball treatments, or you feel that there are treatments that could be helped by using motion gameplay, please come and talk to me. There is funding out there that we can get hold of as well. You probably shoot me for saying it, but I found a guy who's very reasonable, Andrew Long from Exploding Phones. They specialise in these games. He's been very helpful. For a couple of grand, he's basically designed all of these games for me. So again, if you need some help there, we need to be able to capture the data. So the important thing is not just about the games; it's actually getting hold of the data. We want to be able to adapt. We want to be able to change, steal, borrow, whatever it is from different people. So I'm hoping from our interaction with the meetup groups that we'll be able to do that. Pull in resources, understanding what we can do, what we can deliver. We're open for that. We're giving you a demo now, but we've left it outside. The final thing, I'm a very proud Brummie. You can probably tell by my accent. In terms of what we need to look at is creating something we've already talked about it today, it's something in the Midlands that we can be proud of. Something that we can bring together all of the intellectual knowledge, all of the healthcare providers. We've got to find ways of improving the NHS, we've got to find ways of lowering the cost of running the NHS. And through these types of devices, I'm not saying this is the answer, the golden bullet to everything. However, this is something we could start on. We could learn some lessons around this, and we could apply that into you know, to other sectors and to other relationships with providers within NHS. So thank you very much for your time. I hope I didn't go over too long. I wasn't quite sure.
Perfect timing.
All right. So I don't know if anybody's got any questions or.
We could probably have about 2 questions, then we can go to the next speaker, and then we can go out and have a bit of a play with the equipment.
How do you ensure that people are going to be moving correctly for the condition that they have, to make sure they don't damage themselves in some way? How sensitive are you able to give the player feedback about whether they're not only hitting the game points, but also moving correctly for their prescribed condition?
So again, to where we're at the moment, we have designed the games around sort of classic fitness programs. I think in terms of the positioning on healthcare, which is the next stage for us, what we've got to do is, I thought it would be a question of, well, we just give a few of these to physios and they'll try them out. I'll say we're on patients. But working with Warwick University, we've got to go through an ethics committee. Now, I think the ethics committee will start raising those types of you know, questions. One thing that we were looking at in terms of the stability of the cradle is basically having almost like an inner tube or around the base, so it actually won't move more than a few or flex more than a few centimetres. So again, what we could do, particularly in things like dementia care, what we don't want is people falling off the balls. So again, we would have to build that into the design. Now again, in certain conditions, we're not going to be able to get away with practitioners being involved in that. So again, I think it would depend on the user groups we're looking at. Again, we need to make sure that the height of the ball is at a certain level. We use the 55 centimetre balls, there are 45 centimetre balls, there are 65 centimetre balls. So again, there is a lot of variables that we can play with to ensure that that doesn't happen. And we'll have to look at that, you know, when the time comes.
Fantastic. One more question?
Yeah, I was going to say actually, just throwing an idea. You're talking about Made in Mercia and developed things here. And this has got fantastic potential. You've got your Christmas bestseller. I mean, what you should really be doing is generating an artificial store about, is it better with PlayStation 4 or Xbox One? And all the concerned parents with their fat kids. Fantastic. Go for it.
No, thank you. Thank you.
So you understand you're interested in people collaborating with you, is that right? So if they've got good ideas for games, you use your... Yeah,
definitely. So again, in terms of development, well, the planning here is we were almost going to, in terms of the prototype, we're creating an app store. It will be an Android app store on the web. So again, in terms of any applications that developed, we're prepared to either invest in them or share profits with them. So again, if there are things that people can have got ideas, well, you hold on to those ideas, we'll work with you to bring those to fruition. So the best ideas are going to come not from people like me, they're going to come from people in the industry, people in the sector, people in you know, healthcare. Thanks for that, please.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Good, thank you.
I'd just like to draw your attention to something called Health Excel. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it's a competition that's going on for the next week. If you are a business